All right, so we have to do a little bit of setup on our characters first. And this varies depending on how your file is built. Let me move this over here. I'm sorry. You guys won't be able to see my webcam face on the video, but that's fine. Because everyone else modeled their characters in a slightly different way. Like we might have been a little bit off axis or not symmetrical entirely. So we need to fix some stuff in here. Our goal at this point is to have this character right here be standing on 0, 0, 0, like the complete intersection of those points. We need to get them completely at the center, standing flush to the ground right there. We also need to delete history. Look at how many different history nodes I have in here. Oh my God, like that's like the entire history of the character. Like I'm just in this list. So we need to delete that out as well. And we need to make sure all of these values are 0 and then all the scale values are 1. So that's our goal there. And I'll show you how to do that real quick. So if you're off the center of the world, we're gonna need to move this axis over. Before we do that, make sure your character is pointing Z forward. So if you go into object mode, I'm holding W and left click. If you go into object mode, make sure, or sorry, my bad, world mode. Make sure you go into world mode and make sure your character's nose and eyes are facing forward on this blue axis. They need to be Z forward. That's because our auto rig works Z forward. In fact, pretty much everything works Z forward when you're doing characters. Like if you're working in a studio, they're going to come in, the character mesh is going to be facing Z forward. So make sure you're facing Z forward. If you're off by like 90 degrees, like this, you can always just use your rotate tool, hold J, and rotate that back to back to 0, or you could just put in like -90 in the Y, or whatever it needs to be to get you facing Z forward again. Next step is to align this pivot point. So if I mess my pivot point up like hard, I'm just going to move my pivot point, God knows where. Now we need to align this pivot back to the center of the character. So I'm going to hold D to move the pivot point. I'm holding D, and I'm also going to hold V to snap to verts. And I'm going to snap to a vert that's on that middle line of symmetry. Notice how I have that line that goes symmetrically up the character. If your character's already standing on 0, 0, 0, you don't need to worry about this too much. You might just need to move them down, which is the next step. I'm going to move my my manipulator to the middle of the character this way. So, yeah, that looks good. Right there. And I just held D to move that, and I only did it on the blue axis because I already fixed the red X axis by putting it on the middle. Next, I need to align it to the bottom of the feet. So I'm going to hold D and V again. Boom, right there. I'm just snapping it to the bottom vert of the feet there. Now the last step to get it in the center is just to hold X so we can snap onto grid points. And I'm just going to drag from the middle and put it right there, smack dab in the center. Boom, done. Absolutely zeroed out and standing on the center line, completely symmetrical. This is what we need to do. Since we were working with ZBrush sculpts before we brought them in, and we were sculpting with symmetry in ZBrush, a lot of our characters are already going to be perfectly on the perfectly 0 on the x-axis there. We might just need to move them up and down and then make sure our pivot points where it needs to be. All right, so that's it for like as far as moving and stuff. However, there was the other things. We need to delete the history, and we need to 0 this stuff out. So I'm going to first 0 this stuff out and go into Modify, Freeze Transformations, freeze all of these, translate, rotate, and scale. I'm going to freeze all those bad boys. Boom, done. Now you'll notice that in my channel box, it's all 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1. Also, I'm just gonna name this the proper name. Let's do blacksmith mesh. Mesh, right there. Do we want all the objects to be combined into one mesh? No, no. So that's another detail as well, because I would rather rig this other stuff with a wrap deformer, like this mesh right here for this band and this band and this band. So if you have you have stuff like this, you're gonna need to separate it out. Now my gloves are like super tight with the object. Like I don't even have skin underneath to wrap deform to. But if you did, I would separate the gloves out into a different object. So I'm going to do that now while we're on the subject. So I just double clicked the mesh for that. I'm going to shift double clicking. There. Boom. I'm going to go to modeling. I'm going to go to edit mesh. Wait, no, sorry, my bad. Mesh separate. Boom. Right there. So now those are all separate objects. Completely separate objects. And then I'm going to add those onto its own layer. Actually, I'm going to delete all these layers as well. Oops. Because we have a bunch of different objects. Sorry, I'm out of order here. I need to delete history first. So I'm going to go to edit, delete all by type history. It's the same thing we were doing when we were quad drawing and it was going slow. Delete all by type history. Now we can't do that. We can't delete all by type history after we've bound our verts, after we've bound every vert to the skeletal structure of the rig. Just so you guys know. You can't do that. You have to do edit, delete all by type non-deformer history. Because if you do that, then your rig is going to be your mesh is going to be unbound from the rig, and that'll be tragic. So let me go in and make sure we have everything selected. So this is all under blacksmith mesh, which is problem. I'm going to shift P. If you're unfamiliar with this is the outliner. We touched on it very briefly earlier in the semester, but when rigging is concerned, the outliner is a really good resource. So to find it, you can just go into Windows Outliner. If it doesn't pop up the first time, just keep trying it. If that doesn't pop up, hold spacebar, go to Windows Outliner. So now these are all separate, and I want to delete history again. Edit, delete all by type history. And so now these are just free floating in my hierarchy, and I'm going to delete everything else. So we have all these different meshes just sitting freely in space. So they're just sitting free in space on this top level. We can rename these. I'm just going through each name real quick. Honestly, I can just combine these, mesh combine. Right there. And notice that in the outliner, it made some, if we have our character already painted in Substance, do we import it back into Maya? No, because you've exported that character, right? You exported that character and then imported it into Substance. So all that Substance is doing is painting up those texture maps. So you already have your mesh completely like ready to go in Maya. Basically all that you need to do with Substance now is export those maps like I showed you guys at the end of class and then you can bring it onto the character in here. So I'll show you how to do that like probably after all this rigging stuff. But yeah, you can work with your most recent Maya file in here, because this character already has like the UVs already set up and everything's ready to go. So yeah, there. And then so yeah, if you're doing this stuff, make sure after each step that you're deleting history, delete all the type history, because the outliner will create like these nodes of history in it. It's like if you see a little icon like this in there, and it's just empty, so you know that's from some sort of operation you did. If you edit delete by type history, it'll just take those out of your scene. So this character is now ready to go. In fact, you could have it all be one mesh, but it just makes the skinning, like for stuff like this is a very form-fitting piece. Like this would just be so much easier to use a wrap deformer with, rather than having to go in and paint skin weights. Same with these. I might have some problems with this mustache starting to pull at this like top piece, but we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. All right. So now let me go down my checklist. Everything's zeroed out. It's the pivot point. No history. Let's close that. This is separated out. Let me go through and delete my layers, because I don't want you guys working in the same scene where your high poly is, because it just goes so slow in there. And then we can delete this. Delete this. Boom. All right. All right. So everyone else's next step is going to be grabbing the auto rig from Beachboard. In fact, I'm pretty sure I can just drop the script into the class right here. Rapid rig basic, boom. There we go. So everyone just download that bad boy from Discord, or it's also on Beachboard. It's also on Beachboard. So I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of time to do that. All right, so after you have that downloaded, you're going to want to move it from your downloads folder. You'll find it in, it'll look like this, Rapid Rig Basic. And you're going to move that into your scripts folder in Maya. So your scripts folder in Maya is Documents, Maya, whatever version number you're using, Scripts, and then you're going to plop it right in here, Rapid Rig Basic. So basically just take it from that download folder to your scripts folder. Let me look up what it is on Mac. All right, so they're saying, interesting. So they're saying, I'm not sure if this is true because I don't have a Mac to test this, But they're saying this is the file path to where you post your scripts. Where's the scripts folder on Mac? Oh wait. It's a few deeper. Sorry guys. It'll be in library, preferences, Autodesk, Maya. Ours will be 2020 instead of 2018. And then scripts. So that's if you're on Mac. If you're on PC, the extension is users, username, documents, Maya. And then there's also they messed that up because there's Maya, then 2020, Maya 2020 scripts. So get that into that folder. Let you guys do that real quick.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah, what's up?
So for Mac, just go to the fall 2020 final folder and then go to scripts and then just drop it in there.
No, that's the project folder. We need to put something in.
Okay.
We need to put something in like the actual Maya like chief
Oh.
folder. So on Mac, go to library, preferences, Autodesk, Maya,
Okay.
2020 scripts.
All right.
Actually, yeah. Let me know if you're able to find that folder.
Okay, so go to preferences. I'll do it right now.
Yeah, because I'm curious because I don't have a Mac to test this out, but I'd like to know if it works. Yeah, preferences, Autodesk. I linked it in the chat.
I can't find like where like library or preferences are, but if I go onto documents, like if you go onto Finder and then you go to documents, there's a folder for Maya, and then it says projects, default, and then there's a scripts folder amongst other folders.
Let me see. Maya. Huh. What's in that Maya? Do you have like a Maya 2020 version in that folder anywhere?
Projects, default. I don't see Maya 2020 anywhere, but that's the version I have downloaded. Yeah, it just says like there's just like a Maya folder in documents. I don't know where like library is. I don't know where that would be.
Yeah, that's strange because everyone's. Let me look up more. Oh, weird. Okay. Oh, getting posts. Oh, not in here. 1 second, let me mute some Discord servers so I don't get distracted. I'm also seeing. This. Ricardo, can you let me know if you're able to find users, shared, Autodesk, Maya 2020 scripts?
Sorry, I'm looking for it.
No, that's all good. I just want no one to get lost trying to get this script to work. Were you guys able to find that scripts folder at all? Roberto, were you able to find that?
I found the one he was talking about where you go to documents, then you hit the Maya folder, then it's projects, and then you hit default, and then you find scripts.
That's strange because every thread that I click on for this, it says library preferences.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Autodesk.
find that library thing.
Is library not like accessible?
Yeah, I don't see an option for library anywhere. Maybe it's like older,
Weird.
like an older Macs.
Well, the thread that I saw was from 2018, which that's not too far back. I wouldn't think they would restructure everything like that.
That's weird. Yeah, I just have like Finder. I don't see an option for library anywhere. I mean, library. I'm Googling that. Mac library folder. What is a library folder?
Yeah, I'm curious as well.
Let me see. How to get the library folder? There's like a video on it.
Really?
How to find the library folder. Oh, it's hidden.
Oh, it's a hidden folder?
Yeah.
Those fiends, dude. How could they?
Yeah, it says removal of some files in the library folder can damage your system or the performance of some apps. That's why it's hidden.
Yeah, don't fuck with anything else in the library folder. Just just copy that file and paste it in the Maya scripts location.
Okay, here we go. It says open Finder window. Click go in a menu bar. Select go to folder or use. Oh, okay. So you got to go on the Finder menu on the top bar where it says Finder file edit view. Then you go to go and then you click go to folder. And then you have to type like, here, I'll just share the link to the article so you guys can read it. It's pretty clear and easy to follow.
Nice. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Let's check it out. Yeah. All right. Well, if that's like not working for you guys, I do have a hackier method that will also work. So if you're not able to get this, because I want you guys to be able to open up this window that you see here, Rapid Rig Basics, right here. That's our goal, because this is our auto rig. This little guy right here. So if you have that file, right, that I downloaded, my scripts, Rapid Rig Basics, what you can do is right click it and go to Open with Notepad, and you'll see you have just this fat script. Like this is like thousands of lines long. Oh my God. Some brain boy put this together, named Dustin Nelson. He's a pretty cool guy. So I just do Control A and then Control C to copy. Control A is to select all the text. Control C was to copy. And then if you open up your script editor down here, it's this little semicolon within curly braces. You'll have a Mel tab. If you don't, you can always press the plus button here, Mel, Control V. And then once that's all pasted in there, you can just press this double arrow at the top. So if that's giving you guys problems finding that script folder, you can always just drag it into here instead, or just copy and paste it into that script editor as well. I do have a video of that on YouTube if you need to look it up again, of like how to open up that through the script editor. It'll be for a different version of Rapid Rig though. But yeah, so hopefully everyone's able to get the script into the proper folder. if you paste it into a folder, the way that you can test that it's in the right folder, because it sounds like some of you found the folder at this point. I'm going to file first. I'm going to file save as, and then I'll call this blacksmith rig prep. I'm just going to save that as a new file because we deleted a bunch of stuff out of it and it's like ready to be rigged. You need to close Maya. So I'm going to close Maya now. And the reason is because Maya doesn't know that we paste that script in there yet. And when Maya starts up, it then like looks through all the folders and all like the different all the different connections in there and loads them so you can actually use them. So I'm going to open up Maya 2020 again. I'm going to open up that file I was working on. Once Maya fully loads. And I always just go to my recent files. Blacksmith rig prep right here. Down save, boom, ready to go. So now the way to test if we got it into the right folder is we go to our scripts folder, and I'm just going to copy the name of that file. And you have to be completely accurate because it's case sensitive, and you don't want to get that string of characters wrong. So I'm just copying rapid rig _ basic, and then I'm going down to this mel bar. Rapid rig _ basic, semicolon, and I'm pressing enter. So just type rapid rig _ basic with the proper capitalization with a semicolon after it, and then press enter in that line, and then it should pop up. Is anyone having problems getting that to work? Because I'd like us to all be on the same page before we set out on this rigging lecture. Cannot find procedure rapid rig basic. So that is happening because your script might not be in the proper folder, Keith. Keith, are you on PC or are you on Mac? PC. And did you go to your documents folder on Mac? I mean, on PC, sorry. Because you go to documents, you put it in the 2020 folder. Did you put it in the 2020 folder or the 2020 scripts folder? Did you put it in this bad boy right here? The scripts folder. Ooh, interesting. Interesting. Let's, 1 second, let me Google something real quick. Oh, wait, did you close and reopen Maya after you put it into that folder? Okay, yeah, because Maya needs to refresh that connection to that scripts folder. So how's everyone doing on getting this little window to pop open? Y'all able to find it? Anna's got it. Hell yeah. Sandy's got it. Hell yeah. Ricardo's got it. Nice, nice. Kristen's got it. I'm gonna get some water. Keep letting me know if you have access to this yet or not, because I wanna get everyone moving on this at the same time, because this is an important lecture. I'll be right back. I'm gonna get some water. Keith got it to work now. Very nice, very nice. Were any Mac users able to get it to work yet? There's no Maya folder in the library. Oh my God, what the fuck? Damn it, Mac. All right. So for every Mac user, I'm going to show you how you can get around this, because we don't technically need to put it into the scripts folder. What you need to do is find that file that we downloaded and right-click it. Now you're gonna want to open it with. I open it with Notepad. I don't know what Mac's default text editor is, like whatever you use to like just write like a note or something like on Mac. So right click and open with that whatever program that is right there. So once you do that, try Command A to select everything. I'm not sure if it's the same.
Mike.
Yeah, what's up?
Sorry. So for it to work, the DSN Rapid Rig Basic menu has to pop up. The one you have there, the one that's purple, green, and red.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, it popped up. All I did was I right-clicked on the file, and I clicked open with Maya 2020, and then it worked.
Oh, really? Is your character in the scene?
Oh shit! I have to do that.
Because once that's open, I think you can just go to File, Open Scene, and then you can go to that.
Okay, let me try that.
Yeah, let me know if that works. That'd be super sick. That'd be super sick.
That worked for me.
Yeah, the character popped in.
Hell yeah! All right.
The menu's still up too.
All right. I need to let everyone know about that then.
It's like 10 billion times easier.
Yeah, that's a billion times easier. Fuck yeah, dude. All right. So if you heard them, but to reiterate, if you're on Mac, you can right click this and say Open in Maya, and that will pop it open in your current version of Maya. It'll probably be a blank scene with this window in there somewhere in your UI. Is that right, Robert?
Yeah, just right click and then just put open with Maya 2020.
And then it gave you a fresh scene though, right? And then you had to just go to File, Open.
Yeah, then I just imported my character in.
Nice.
My last one.
Hell yeah, that is super sick. All right, so any Mac user, just do that. Just do that solution. Now,
yeah, what's up? Sorry, real quick.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's all good.
you go through the like the little checklist you did
Oh yeah,
before,
yeah,
like at the beginning.
yeah, absolutely. Right before we get into it. So to reiterate, you're gonna want your character completely on the ground level, right there, and you want your character perfectly in the center of your scene. And so what I did was I held D and V and aligned my red axis to that line of symmetry on my character. Then I held X and snapped it into the center. Then what we did was, because we would have some weird values in there, but your character's zeroed out and facing forward on Z here. You can just go to Modify, Freeze Transformations. Boom. And that fixes all that. Then I would recommend, if you're going to have some pieces of the mesh that we're going to use a wrap deformer on, and let me just show you what a wrap deformer is. So like we're going to have this character moving around, right? But if we click one of those pieces, that's going to wrap onto the character, and then shift click our character, so our character will be green, but the piece that we're going to deform is white. Then we do where is it? Wrap, right there. And whenever we move verts on this, now it moves the strap on top of it. So if you're gonna move like some clothing bits like this, then we're gonna need those to be a separate object. So at this point, this is when I separated out these objects. I just went to mesh, separate. I just selected the faces of them and did mesh separate. Then we have to delete our history because we have a bunch of history up in here. Mesh base. Oh dear God. No, my deformer. Edit, delete all my type history. Sorry, let me get that demo deformer out of here. Boom. Okay. And I have all my stuff named and split up, but we're gonna be binding this main character. Let me look at your guys' characters in Discord to see. If Ricardo, if your character's skin goes underneath this shirt, then you might need the shirt to be a separate object, how I just showed you. Same with the pants. But if I don't know what the inside of this mesh looks like. So if these like weld together at a point like in here, and you don't have skin underneath the like shirt, then you don't need to keep it separate.
Okay. Yeah. The shirt is like sitting on top of the rest of the body. So yeah, I think I'm
okay. Yeah. So keep that. Go into the mesh and separate it out there. Okay. And remember, that's just going into the faces in face mode. Just double clicking that shirt, and then go to mesh separate, and you should be good. Should be good to go. Anna, for your tubes, I might say that it'd be best to keep that as a wrap deformer. Okay. on top of your mesh.
Okay.
Same with the pockets, if they're also separate. I don't know if they're separate from the actual mesh, but
yeah, they are.
Okay, all right. So I would go in and mesh separate those out. You should be good there.
Mm-hmm.
Keith has. So Keith's model is pretty advanced in terms of clothing. Like I'd say the skirt would probably be a wrap deformer for sure. and this, I'd say even this trench coat, but I don't know exactly how well that's going to work. So I would leave the coat on top as a separate object for now anyways, because we can have multiple solutions. And same with the cape. The cape, I would have it be a separate object as well. Because the issue that you're going to run into is if we wrap deform this sort of robe coat to the body, when that leg raises, it might move the coat around really strangely. I'm not sure, but we're gonna need to try it out though. So I would separate that out. I don't know if your skin goes very deep under the skirt. If it doesn't, then like if you're does your character's skin exist underneath this shirt and skirt, or no, Keith? I'll get over to that, Robert, Roberto, in just a second. There's skin underneath the skirt. What about underneath the shirt? Like underneath this, it's like sort of turtlenecky. Nope. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So keep the shirt and the skin as one object. Basically, what we're going to separate out is the skirt if it's its own like separate shell, pretty much, and the wristbands as their own object. Ricardo, let's see. I would keep those separate. Yeah, I would keep those separate. Because honestly, we could just parent those to the controls at the end if need be. We might not even have to use like a wrap deformer on it. But yeah, so keep the skin and the shirt together, but the skirt and the cape and the coat will be separate. Grinch, pretty much everything's just keep this together.
Yeah.
Oh, also you might want to smooth out some of the normals on this, on like the hand and stuff. We can do that later.
How do I do that? Just do it in Maya?
Yeah, in Maya side, like if you have like a really, like, notice how this edge is really hard of the of this strap. I can just double click that edge and go into modeling, mesh display, soften edge, right there.
Okay.
So notice how it's smooth. Yeah, do that on like the, because you have a lot of.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, that'll really help with the appeal of it. Same goes for you, Anna. I think you might have some hard normals or up here on like the visor. It looks a little bit like cut across there, so you might want to do that same thing. But yeah, everyone else is looking pretty good. And let me go and do that. All right, so we're going to delete the history now. And we're just going to do it for the entire file. We're going to go to Edit, Delete All by Type History. But history's gone now. We can't undo stuff on our characters. What we see is what we get. So we're ready to go. All right. So I just want to visualize for you guys real quick. And I want you guys to see what's going on in the outliner for these rigs before I create proxies. Try to make this quick. So if I create a cube, let's go in here. Should make a really dumb, quick rig for y'all. It's not going to do anything impressive. Keep in mind. I'm going to go in here. and increase the divisions, super high, right there, nice. So this is our mesh, our character mesh, right? Just this stick. And what we're gonna be doing, what our auto rig is doing, is going in, I'm in the rigging menu now. Make sure you're in there. If you're seeing a bunch of buttons that I'm clicking that like you don't see on the menu, it's because they're in the rigging menu now. And you're going to skeleton, and you guys don't have to do this along with me. I'm just showing you guys. Create joints. So I'm going to click here, and you'll see in my outliner. Make sure you have your outliner open when you're rigging. It's very useful. You can see that I'm creating joints. If I go into 4 mode, you can see it better. Creating a bunch of joints down the length of this. And if I press W, you can see I have a joint chain here. If I bend that, if I have them all selected, if I just go down this list and select them all, I can rotate them. And this is how you this is the skeletal structure that I was talking about of like that we fit in these characters. And I'm just going to undo that and get that back into the rotation. So we have these joints set up, and then what we do is we shift click our joint and our mesh, and then we go to skin, and we bind skin to the joint hierarchy, geodesic voxel, max influence is 5, bind skin. So now, if we bend these, oops, let me get the shaded mode on. Now, when we bend it, it's driving that character, quote unquote, the little stick. But we don't have anything driving these joints, really. We were just kind of manipulating these raw joint values, which is it works, but it's not ideal because you want more control. You want to be able to like stick your foot on the ground, and then when the character moves, that foot stays planted on the ground, stuff like that. So in order to get more control over that, we have to have a rig over the top of these joints in here. And usually underneath every single one of these controls is a group. So if I press Control G, you'll see I have a null 1 group, and this group is just empty. Nothing's in it, just an empty group. I'm going to say stick Control 1. Boom. And underneath that, I'm going to create a NURB circle right there. So this is our circle, and this is going to be the actual control that we move this stick around with, right? And I'm going to rotate this to be in the orientation of the stick. And you'll see that as I do that, I have the 0s and 90s. I want all these to be 0 again, so I go to Modify, Freeze Transformations, boom. And now I have this group, right? This empty group and this empty circle. They're not doing anything. I want this circle to be a child of that parent group. Let's see if I can actually move this. No, there we go. I need this circle to move as a child of this group. And you'll see these joints are all children of the joint before it. You see, that's why they're in this hierarchy that's collapsible. So the way I can do this here is click the child and then the parent, and then press P. And now it's under there as a group. So I'm selected on the group, but it's moving that control around, right? But instead, what I can also do is middle click drag in this viewport in the outliner, and it just drags it right under there. I really like that method because it's just a lot simpler. You don't have to remember hotkeys. That's just middle click drag. And then I'm going to snap it. I'm going to snap that group to that first joint. So I'm just holding V and I'm dragging it on there. Boom, ready to go. Now we don't care if these groups have like values on it. So we don't have to modify freeze transformations on those. And I'm just going to Control D to duplicate. I'm going to move it further down to that next joint right there. I'm going to Control D again. I'm duplicating that group a bunch, right, guys? I'm duplicating that group completely. And I'm just moving it down that joint chain. Imagine if this was like a really long finger, these would all be finger groups in here. And there we go. So we have all of our groups that have those controls under them in the hierarchy now. And I'm just going to start dragging those back onto each other. And you'll see that I'm basically remaking that joint hierarchy, but with controls. I've been messing up this. I need to be putting these under the actual NURBS curves, my bad, guys. Right there. So I'm dragging this under that NURBS circle in there. I'm dragging this under the NURBS circle in there. So when that NURBS control moves, when that moves around, that child object is going to follow it, right? So if I expand that hierarchy, you can see what's going on in there. So now if I rotate these, they all follow. If I shift select all these, you can see that they're rotating as well. So this is my rig, quote unquote, and this is my skeleton right here. So they're two separate hierarchies inside this outliner. And if I go into, if I select this control now, and if I shift select the joint, so we do driver, then driven, and do constrain, parent. Now this circle is driving that joint. And I can do the same thing for this. I'm going to make sure you're selecting the driver, then driven, constrain, parent. I'm just doing this. I'm just pressing G to do that same parent constraint again. And I'm just constraining that joint to that circle. Remember that the regular parenting is just putting them underneath them in the hierarchy, but the parent constraining, you can see that they're popping up in this joint hierarchy. You're telling that joint to move along with this separate object. So they're two separate hierarchies still that are driving each other. And now, say some magic words, because then you can bend your character with your skeleton through a control rig. So that's what is happening there. Like that's what our auto rig is going to take care of for us. I just want you guys to know the concept that goes into like each of these proxies and like when they create the joints and the controls and like what those change. Now, as animators, we don't, for the love of God, do not, after you create your rig, do not touch your joints and move them around like this. Like this will break your rig 100%. Don't delete joints either out of that hierarchy. Like that, what we have is all we got, you know. If you're testing out different, like the way things move in your rig, make sure you're only moving these control rigs, like the NURBS curves. Don't just move the joints themselves. I've seen a lot of students do it, and it makes me wince because I'm like, oh no, that poor rig is, it could be breaking and it could be creating a lot of problems down the line if we animate a lot on there. But yeah, so this is basics of rigging. Pretty cool stuff. It's one of my favorite parts of the pipeline. It is very painful, but like seeing your character move for the first time is like fucking magic, dude. Some wizardry. So that's just the concepts I wanted you guys to know about before I go into actually rigging this bad boy up. So I'm going to do this as fast as I can. I have a YouTube video of this up It's like 19 minutes long, but I'm just going to talk to you guys as well. So it's probably going to go a bit longer. But we're ready to rig now. And we're going to rig it to this chief character, right? We're going to use wrap deformers on these bad boys to kind of follow our skin afterwards. If that doesn't pan out, we can always paint skin weights. And you'll know what that means at the end of class. So if our wrap deform doesn't work perfectly, then we always have that option to go back to. But for the meantime, I'm going to take a drink of water first. We're going to start creating our proxies. Before I do that, though, is anyone unclear on like what a rig is then? I want to make sure everyone knows that the rig is like the skeleton joint structure and those nerve controls working together. And then that's what us animators start to work with and push on and pull and move through a scene. So does anyone not understand exactly what those, what a rig is? All right. Looks like everyone's got it. If you're at all confused by the concept, let me know, because I want everyone to be on the same page for the concept of this stuff. All right. So once you have your Rapid Rig Basic window open, boom, ready to go. You're going to click Create Proxies. And in your scene, you'll see that it created this. Basically, it looks like free-floating joints. But what these are not actual joints, but they will be where those joints are placed. So I want you to think of these as the kind of pivot points of different like skeletal joints in your body. Like this one is the, oh, whoop, 1 second. This is gonna drive me insane if I have to keep like selecting these different guys. So let me put the mesh that I'm gonna bind on a new layer. I'm just doing that in display layer. And if you find yourself selecting a mesh a lot that you don't want to during this process, which will happen, always just make a layer. And then you can double click this last box to say R, and that means it's a reference, so you can't click on it anymore. It's super useful for this part, because like otherwise I'm just gonna be clicking my old mesh a bunch. But for right now, I'm just gonna add these to a different layer as well. Right there. And I'm just gonna viz those off because I don't even need those. I just have my just have my guy with rings on his chest. Very nice. What we're gonna do is scale this proxy down a little bit, just to get into the ballpark of our character size. And then we start moving these proxies around, and always start with the root, because you'll see that affects like more than just the root itself, right? Like that's pulling on a bunch of these different proxies. So we're gonna get this center of mass kind of in like the pelvic area, like kind of like right behind or right in front of the sacrum, if I remember it correctly. It's been a while since I've had anatomy courses. And then we go into our hip and our ankle. I always like moving these together because it makes it nice and easy. I don't want you guys to stray too far this direction. Like see how that knee is accommodating for us, but like don't rig your character like this. Like try to have your character standing straight up with the legs straight down. One thing that's non-negotiable is you have to have your feet pointing forward. If they aren't, and you use, if you're animating and you like, because this might, I saw this happen 2 semesters ago, the character's feet will no longer be in line when you're using object mode and you're moving them around. So if you're holding W and you're in object mode and you're moving them around, it'll set keys and you'll always be like kind of sliding across the floor. So it's not going to be working if you do that. So yeah, make sure your feet pointing straight forward. And the idea for these joints or proxies is that you want to keep them sort of center of mass. So I want this leg to kind of rotate from like down here. Yeah, that'll be good. It's just kind of center of mass of the this whole hip shape. And same with the ankle. Like I need that. This is the pivot point, right? So I need that pivot point to be where the ankle normally would be, but center of mass there as well. It just bends better in 3D if you have it center of mass. And then these two, this is the ball. If you're ever confused as to what this control is that you're moving around, it's the ball. Things can get kind of messy towards the top here, so it's always good to reaffirm. And I'm just going to move that ball to where the ball of the foot would be. And this toe, I'm just going to put towards the tip. Notice how I didn't really push them. I didn't push them left and right at all. I just kind of left them on their Z axis. Next, once you get the hip, the ankle, and the foot finished, we need to align this knee. Now, what's super important with this knee is that this arrow is pointing in the direction or opposite of the direction that it bends. Because if we push this to the side and we bend that knee, like if we like squat, this knee would completely bend out from the side and it would look broken beyond belief and be disgusting. So let's not do that. Let's keep it in this Z forward direction. If I go into object, or if I hold W and left click, we can go into object mode, and it makes it easier to pull along the axes that won't break that. Because if I go along this red, it's going to completely break that. But if we go along blue and yellow, we'll be fine. And I'm just going to put that where the knee would be, kind of center of mass of that knee as well. All right, so our lower body's finished. We're only doing half of this because we can always mirror the controls over. And our next step is to set up the top of the spine. So you'll see DSN spine 4. Let's push that into kind of the chest area. DSN spine 4. It has a lot of things attached to it, so it's important that we nail down the position of this. You're going to want this to be kind of not too high. You don't want it to be like the top of, like, you don't want it to be where your cervical spine is. You don't want it there. You want it kind of like maybe sternum level, maybe slightly above sternum. Mine's just pretty much at sternum level. Let's move it a little bit higher. And I know your spine is in like the like you can feel your spine on your back, right? But we don't rig things like there. Like we keep it center of mass, like I was saying before. I'm gonna say center of mass a lot. So I'm just like looking at the back verts and the front verts, and I'm just kind of judging the halfway point between that. And then we can move these extra. We can make these curve like a normal spine into that. It's fine. Maybe a bit higher. Yeah, that looks good. So I'm just a little bit above the sternum and center of mass of that chest. It's a very important joint to get right. Well, all of these are important. I don't want you guys getting bad joint placement here. Next, we have our Dsn L Clavicle. So your clav is basically like the controls that let you shrug, right? So they let your shoulders come up and down. Let's get ourselves back in here. What? I just disappeared. Now. There we go. Oh, nice. I can just conquer the screen now. So your clav is, in real life, it's like this area right here. It's like this collarbone. But we only have one joint for that, where in reality you have your collarbone and you have your your scapula and like all those, that shoulder girdle works together to let you shrug and move. But we only have one joint in there. So we kind of like think about when you shrug, where that pivot point is coming from. It's kind of pulling from like here, right? So I always keep these kind of close in. And yeah, center of mass of that area, kind of in towards the, you don't need to go all the way over here, but yeah, this will do. And then we push the shoulder out. Shoulder is, if you have like a female character and you put the shoulder joint out too far from the arm, if it, like, look at where I'm rotating from in here. If you put it too far out and then you lower your arm, that female character is going to look like manly and strong, because you like the verts of that delt will fold out over it, and she's going to look like a football player. So make sure your shoulder joint placement here is good. And make sure it's aligned on that side. Always rotate your camera around to make sure you're not too far away from the center of mass of whatever you're placing. And then we skipped the elbow, just as we skipped the knee and the leg to start with. And then we place this hand into position. And we want this wrist joint to be right on there. Like you'll probably have some spans in there. Oh, if you don't have enough geometry here, so let me turn off for reference. Like if you don't have a lot of geometry here to bend, you're going to get some bad deformation. So one last step before binding to the rig is I would, let me turn on symmetry. I would add an edge loop there, you know, because it was a little bit sparse. You might want to add one like at your knees. A common one though is like fingers. Notice how I have 1, 2, 3, like at that knuckle or at that digit. I always make sure to have 3 there at least to that way when we bend down like this, when we bend that finger, it doesn't get too crumpled in on itself. So back to, I'm going to edit, delete by type history on that. So let's go back in here, and I'm aligning this wrist, center of mass of that wrist area where it's going to rotate around. Perfect. Next step, going into the knuckle, and I'm just aligning that with the fingers. Kind of hard to see sometimes in 4, so feel free to snap back between 4 and 5 mode, which is wireframe and shaded respectively. I'm just rotating this top joint in first. I'm also going to make sure that it's aligned. Let's go into object rotation. I'm just going to make sure it's aligned on the red axis to be pointing outward, right? Because it's just like the knee and the elbow. Wherever that arrow is pointing, that's where it's going to like rotate away from. So we don't want to have that arrow pointing upward or downward, because otherwise it'll look like mangled when you bring your arm in. And it's going to take a little bit of time to get this into position. Let me turn that that layer back to reference so I don't have to click on my mesh constantly by accident. And I'm just using move and rotate to get this into position. I'm going to rotate this a little bit. And yes, it's a little bit tedious, but I don't know. Good joint placement is vital. Make sure this bends the right direction. Right there. This way. There we go, and I'm lining that up with that sort of 3 edge loop setup that I had ready to go. Then the thumb, I'm gonna, instead of having it like straight out here, because we don't really bend our thumb like this, right? It's more naturalistic. It's more to the side. So I'm gonna rotate this way. And I'm going to move that there. Orient these. Towards the thumb. There we go. Perfect, perfect. So those are all aligned in there. Now, last step is the head, the neck, and the jaw and eyes. So the neck, we just move this up. Make sure that when you're dealing with these joints that are in the middle, that you don't move it left and right. It does do a good job of locking you from doing that, but I don't trust it. Like just don't touch the red axis when you're moving these ones around, like these middle ones. And then I always put this neck at the base of the neck, right here, and I'll move this head to basically where the vertebrae meets the skull, but then I'll do that center of mass. I'm moving that to the center of the mass there. And then for this jaw, I keep it kind of lower than than where I put that head, because like when you pull out your jaw, it doesn't quite just like rotate. It kind of folds out a little bit lower because you do have like extra control over that. So you don't go straight like down. So you always have to. I always kind of move it a little bit down from the head. Move that right there. Let's move the head tip. Head tip's not super important, but we always put it up here, just above the rest of it. Because this tip works the same as like all these other tips. Like we don't have a joint right there, right? Like our last joint in our fingers is right there. So you always have this index tip right there. That's just kind of like a rigging classic. Like they always just keep a joint right there. So we do the same for the head as we did for the toe and the fingers, and we just put it at the end. For the eye, there's a little bit of extra stuff in here. I'm going to turn on shaded wireframe so you can see exactly what I'm doing. But to get this, we basically need this joint to be on the inside of the eye, right? Because my eyes, they rotate around one pivot point at the very center. And everyone's eyes are a little bit different, so we might not even use the eye control on some of these characters. I know Sandy has different eyes. I know Roberto's Grinch doesn't really have a pupil, so it might not even be worth rigging up in the first place. But for everyone with spherical eyes, this will work pretty nicely for you. So if I hold V and I'm in W mode, I can just move that joint to that middle vert That's there. And I can align it. I can align the blue axis now to that middle eyeball. That middle eyeball edge loop. And so that's perfectly in the center now. So all of those joints are set up now. And I did, at this point, I would save, file save as, rig proxies, because once we generate this rig and see how it moves, we might not like where we put some of the joints. I've definitely seen a lot of mishaps in the joint placements. Blacksmith rig proxies. I've definitely seen a lot of mishaps. So you always want to have a file you can go back to for that. And we don't have the joints mirrored yet. So the way we do that is in our little Rapid Rig Basic menu. We can pose proxies. I did the left side of my character. You might have done the right side of your character. But if you, and I'm looking at this from like the character's perspective. If you set up your joints on the left side of the character, you have to do left to right. Boom, right there. If you did the right side, you'd do right to left. And you'd be good to go. So I'm going to save again. And then last step is generate rig. You'll see it's building rig down there. It's thinking real hard. And ta-da, we have that, remember that stupid like long cube rig I made? This is just a more advanced version of it. It's got joints for every single like bone that you need to animate. And it has all these different controls for you. They're already constraining the joints underneath, so you don't even need to touch those joints. You can go into your joint layer and just press R, or make it a reference layer, because it automatically makes this joints layer for you as well. So you can do that. But we need to bind the skin to the character. So if we go in, and I'm going to make this not reference anymore, so I can select it. You can either click the Select Skinning Joints menu icon right here, or you can just select the joints by left-clicking on them. Either way is going to work. And then if you shift-click your character, then you can go into Skin, Bind Skin. We're going to go to the options, though. Make sure it says geodesic voxel here, and max influences is 5, and joint hierarchy. And then we do bind skin. It's going to think for a little bit. And it looks like nothing happened, but in reality, I'm going to make my joints reference so I can't select them again. But in reality, we now have a character that is moving around. Very nice. Very nice. So that is rigging and skinning. Like that's or not skinning completely yet. That's just binding to the skin. That's using the rapid rig to make a rig that we can use with our character. And there's a bunch of different auto rigs online. Like there's one called Advanced Skeleton that seems to be amazing, but and it's free to use for personal use, but not commercial. And it has like a bunch of advanced features, but you know, it's a little bit too advanced for starting out with rigging. So I went against it. But yeah, so you'll notice that these controls are kind of grayed out, or like they won't rotate a certain way, and like you can't rotate this elbow any way but on its y-axis here, the yellow. That's because like you can't do that in real life. Like you can't just break the arm like that. Stylistically, sometimes though we do break the arms in animation for like smear, like if we're trying to make a smear frame type thing go on, like that type of effect. That's when you would break those joints. But yeah, so then we have all of these. If you can't move it with W, that means that it's in FK mode. Right here, you see FK. If you want to switch that over to IK so we can move it, you can always go into this little added selector, go to IK, and you'll see that it gives you this little oven mitt shape, and then you can move that around instead. So that's getting the rig ready. Next step is getting this rig to deform nicely. Like, see when I pull this arm up, it like bulges the lat out like that. That's what we want to get rid of that. And that's skinning. And that process is pretty conceptually difficult, I'd say. And Maya has a lot of like finicky stuff about it. So please give yourself a lot of time to do the skinning portion. Like, please don't fall behind on that, because it's gonna be, there's gonna be problems, and you're gonna need to be, I'm gonna be getting a lot of emails about it. I can assure you. But yeah, so that's basic character setup. And this rapid rig stuff is completely free. So I did in the past use a more like advanced version, but I can't anymore, because it's like I can't give that away to people. Everyone would have to buy it instead. Like, it doesn't have a student license for it. But this version, completely free. All right, so I'm going to stop recording.